The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of this network, their group, or other organization they may be involved with.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of Tuesday evening news. Tuesday evening
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Psychedelic Reporters for this Tuesday, the 11th of February, episode 140. Oh, wow, I forgot to look. 145 here on NOK Network, the video news podcast focused on psychedelic medicine being reported in mainstream media. Shout out to the guys in Dead Ringer from Kirkland Lake, Ontario, for the awesome intro track, originally recorded from the Moody Blues with some customized changes for our show. I am joined by my amazing joint host, Tara Simpson, along with the one and only Buffalo Various, who has chosen all of our stories for us. Hello, Tara.
Well, hello, hobbies, and hello, everyone. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Bufo. He's our Sonoran desert toad, or Colorado mud toad. Did you know he emits DMT from his skin? And while that sounds like fun, park rangers would like to remind everyone, please don't lick that toad.
Safety and wellness of the toad for the necessity of further growth and studies of DMT is much noted.
Yes, conservation.
So, we have a very good set of stories this week for you, and I am so excited to get into it. Our first article comes from Edmonton Journal, and this was a carryover from last week. And this is written by Cindy Tran, where new psychedelic therapy clinic opens in Edmonton.
Yeah, so this is exciting, especially for us here in Canada. A new psychedelic assisted therapy clinic has opened in Edmonton, and psychologists say the field has shown promising results in helping those with complex mental health needs. Reunion Psychedelic Therapy became licensed in the fall of 2024, becoming one of the first clinics in Edmonton to introduce ketamine, MDMA, and psilocybin medicine into treatments for patients. The use of drugs like ketamine in very small doses paired with psychotherapy can help some patients who may be suffering with long-standing or treatment-resistant depression or major depressive disorder. Dr. Kevin St. Arnaud, a psychologist at Reunion, says specific parameters must be met for individuals to take part in the treatment. Patients have to be referred by a physician, nurse practitioner, or mental health practitioner to the clinic. From there, psychiatrists will do a medical screening to ensure the individual referred is an appropriate candidate and can safely tolerate the medicine. Individuals become more receptive when they're on psychedelic medicine, and that can help them to develop new understanding, new perspectives of perhaps long-standing, intractable problems, and also to face a upsurge of memories, emotions, and feelings that from the past that they may not have fully been worked through. St. Arndt said, bubbling up in a new way. Before the session, an individual will come in for a preparation session where they can develop a rapport with the therapist and clinical team that they'll be working with. On dosing day, St. Arndt said the intent is for patients to feel cozy, and they will either lie down on a bed or chair with their eye shades on and music playing the majority of the session. The controlled environment is maintained by 2 therapists who are present. The work going on is primarily internal. They're facing maybe some challenges or traumas from their past that they may have really been struggling to face and to work through now. And that's kind of bubbling up for them in a new way, St. Arndt said.
So bubbling up in a new way before the session.
No, we're down in 2022. Keep going. No, other way. There you go. Keep going. Right.
And in 2022, Alberta became the first province to regulate psychedelic drugs for people in therapy. Psychedelic drugs approved for clinical use in the province include psilocybin, MDMA, LSD, mescaline, peyote, DMT, 5-methoxy-DMT, and methamphetamine. According to the Office of Minister of Mental Health and Addiction, the first license for the provision of psychedelic drug treatment services was issued in August 2024. And there are currently 4 licensed providers in the Edmonton area. Our government is protecting Albertans by using the first province in Canada to introduce safeguards to psychedelic-assisted therapy, the minister's office said. Is saying as ketamine used in psychedelic therapy is a very low dosage to what would be used in emergency medicine or anesthesiology. He stressed out that the use of psychedelics in an intentional therapeutic context is very important, emphasizing the intention is not to party, which drugs like MDMA are used for, and instead to help heal psychological challenges. No silver bullet. Psychedelic psychotherapy is still considered an emerging field, St. Arnott said. The research indicated that many people will benefit from but not everyone. I think it's always important to be honest and fair about expectations, St. Arnott said. Mental health, mind, and psychology are extremely complex things, and there is just no silver bullet. Not everybody is going to be helped by psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy. Not everyone will be able to experience the gains that they're perhaps hoping to. What might be one person might not be right for someone else. Wow. Yeah. Oh, wow. Is that it? Wow.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool that that's happening here in Canada.
So, but that's not the only establishment opening up. It's like there's a couple of them that are popping up, and it's starting to be predominantly healing. Like it's starting to be seen as healing centers.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Are you seeing more momentum now that you have a new legislature system?
Oh, we still don't have movement there. We need him to recall Parliament so that he can actually resign, so we can actually have an election. So there's really not a whole lot happening, but hopefully once we have a new leader and our elections happen, then things might move better. I don't know. Yeah.
So I hope you guys all the luck. And our next article comes from Salon.com. A psychedelic plant from Africa holds promise for addiction and trauma, but it's not for everyone. Despite being illegal in the U.S., ibogaine popularity is growing. Here is why this shrub can potentially heal. And this is written by Elizabeth Holovinka, who is a staff writer.
Yeah, most mornings, Sean, a Marine Corps and Air Force veteran who served 3 times in Iraq and twice in Afghanistan, would wake up with an overwhelming feeling of dread. After losing his son to suicide in 2017, he knew he had to process his grief, but all those feelings had been mounting for so long. He wasn't sure how, and the longer time went on, the more impossible it seemed to climb that emotional mountain and find peace on the other side. The way we handled things in the military was you put things in your pack and you deal with them and you keep pressing forward. Sean, who is only using his first name for privacy reasons, told Salon. That's kind of what I did when my son passed away, and it kept building up and building up. I was trying to figure out how I would process it, but I just got lost. In the next few years, distance grew in his relationship with his daughter, and conflicts in his marriage led to divorce. Then in 2021, a chance encounter at a grocery store, he became connected with a nonprofit called Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions. That presented him with an opportunity to try a psychoactive substance called ibogaine at a clinic in Mexico. I was really touching on some nerves on things I was struggling with: the suicidal ideation, stress, and a potential traumatic brain injury. Sean said, it would end up being the worst thing and the best thing I have ever done in my life. Ibogaine, an alkaloid extracted from the iboga root native to Central Africa, is illegal in the US, but not in Mexico and in the Caribbean. Clinics and retreat centers there offer the drug for sessions that typically cost thousands of dollars. Researchers at Ohio State University are collecting survey data from any of the estimated 10 to 20,000 people who are thought to have already taken ibogaine, but due to regulatory restrictions and lack of funding, research at this point in the US is mostly limited to leveraging data from existing international clinics. We are collecting data on people who have sought ibogaine treatment all around the world, so we can start to collect a very robust database of any risks, any benefits, and what's going on in the space, said Dr. Stacy Armstrong, Associate Director of the Center for Psychedelic Drug Research and Education at OSU. And that way we have something to provide when we go forward, maybe with a FDA or Food and Drug Administration submission for a clinical trial in the United States.
The therapeutic potential of ibogaine. Ibogaine seems to work like a rapid acting antidepressant that improves cognition and promotes neuroplasticity. What distinguishes it from psychedelics like psilocybin or LSD that it also acts as a protein in the brain that helps neurons survive and regenerate, called the glial-derived neurotrophic factor, or GDNF. This regulates the neurotransmitter dopamine, which could explain why it has been reported to reduce cravings and help people with substance use disorder, said Deborah Mash, a lead ibogaine researcher who has been studying it since the 1990s. If this molecule could reset the neurotransmitter signaling pathway for dopamine, this would be a major significant pharmaceutical advantage. Nash told Solon in a phone interview, we could actually have a molecule to finally treat the underlying disorders that puts patients at risk for addiction and keep them locked into an intractable cycle of disease. Wow.
In small studies, ibogaine has been shown to improve symptoms of traumatic brain injury, substance use disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Earlier this month, Stanford University published a study in Nature Medicine of 30 veterans with traumatic brain injury in which Sean participated. It found 88% of participants had reduced post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms, 87 had fewer depressive symptoms, and 81% had alleviated anxiety symptoms, in addition to improved traumatic brain injury measures. Tom Figel, co-founder of Beyond Ibogaine, a retreat center in Cancun, Mexico, said about half of the people who attended treatments there are seeking help for substance use. 40% come to treat depression, anxiety, traumatic brain injury, or post-traumatic stress disorder, and the remainder come for emotional and spiritual development purposes. Indeed, the drug has a long history of use. Indigenous people from Batuidi region in Gabon have been using iboga shrubs for thousands of years for coming-of-age ceremonies and healing rituals. Ibogaine is an autobiographical, deeply introspective experience about you, and it's a very long journey compared to other psychedelics that last 8 to 12 hours. Figel told Salon in a video call, "You're basically in a dreamlike state, observing the most meaningful memories of your life, which tend to change our perspective on our past." The path forward in research. In 1993, the FDA approved a clinical trial to test ibogaine's safety and how it was metabolized in the body. However, the National Institute of Drug Abuse decided not to fund it, citing safety concerns. High doses of ibogaine can carry a risk of cardiac arrhythmia and other heart-related side effects. Between 1990 and 2020, 33 deaths have been associated with ibogaine use, most commonly in spaces where cardiac monitoring did not occur. Doses were too high, or people ingested it were on other prescriptions or non-prescription drugs that were contraindicated, according to a 2021 editorial co-authored by MASH in the Drug Metabolism and Toxicology. For most of those reports, there was no toxicology done, and some people predict that they had other drugs on board, which means you'd have a risk for drug-drug interaction. Or some people had a potassium imbalance or magnesium deficiency, or their electrolytes were off. MASH said, you have to have the labs, and you have to have the cardiogram, and you have to have a qualified clinician look at your labs and your cardiogram to make sure you're a candidate for this. Some people have said the decision not to prioritize ibogaine is rooted in stigma that pervades psychedelic research, and there have been relatively little interest from pharmaceutical industry over the years to invest in research studying its effectiveness.
Yet, in the context of the co-occurring mental health and overdose crisis, in which more than 130 and 200 people die by suicide and overdoses each day, many argue that more effort should be made to understand the substance's therapeutic potential. The criminalizations of drugs often does not stop people from taking these substances, but makes them instead seek out safe ways to use them. As larger clinical trials continue to be pursued in the U.S., many continue to try ibogaine in other countries, where it's largely up to the individual to make sure there is medical supervision and safety protocols in place. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Okay, here it is. Patients at Beyond meet with staff virtually before enrolling in treatment to share their complete health histories and make sure they do not have any uncontrolled addicted conditions. They also talked with medical staff who ensure they are not on any contradicted medications. Upon arrival, they undergo EKG and lab testing to make sure all vitals are stable before taking ibogaine and are constantly monitored during the process, said Eduardo Ramirez, an emergency medicine physician and Beyond's medical director. You're hooked up to a blood pressure cuff and pulse oximeter, and we put our electrodes on your chest so we can see your cardiac rhythm and vital signs in real time, Ramirez told Swan in a video call. In a study MASH published in 2018 with 191 people who were given ibogaine to treat opioid and cocaine use, no adverse events were reported with the proper dosing and monitoring in place. At 1 month follow-up post-ibogaine treatment, drug cravings and depressive symptoms were significantly lower for participants in this study. More recent research with ibogaine suggested that no adverse effects or significant adverse effects with healthy individuals who use ibogaine with no other substance, told Salon in a phone interview. Researchers are investigating the use of ibogaine, the principal psychoactive metabolite of ibogaine, which has been shown to carry its anti-addictive effects and could also be taken in a pill or patch daily without the need or extensive monitoring. Match that people could go to work and not to leave to take off to go to psychedelic retreat or go to a hospital to be under a full medical monitor. Norbogaine will help people who are recently detoxified from drugs and alcohol to transition to sobriety. Wow.
Yeah. In the past few years, there's been a renewed interest in ibogaine treatments. Congressional lawmakers have advocated for more research on it, and the pharmaceutical company ATAI Life Sciences is researching it as a therapy for opioid use disorder. Various researchers are trying to make ibogaine similar molecules without some of the side effects, and the NIDA has even returned to funding some animal studies to test ibogaine's analogs. Thus far, though, these types of molecules have only been tested in rodents. A transformational experience. When taking ibogaine, people often report transformational experiences that curb substance use when other attempts have not, and lead to recovery that's persistent years after ibogaine is ingested. Those who have tried it also often report transcendental experiences where they understood the connectivity of all things, experienced visions, or encountered God. But it's a challenging experience too. People report nausea and vomiting or impaired psychomotor coordination. In Sean's case, he felt his fingers and toes curling inwards as if they were collapsing into himself. Then came the purging. I do believe that was part of the healing process, Sean said. That is what actually gets something out. Sean experienced a traumatic brain injury when an explosive device fell off a truck in Iraq and hit his head. During his time there, 48 Marines in his unit died, and another 120 were sent home with injuries. Through his experience with ibogaine, he was able to start to process all of the loss he experienced during his time in service, along with starting the process of grieving his son. At its core, there was a spiritual, emotional challenge, which I think is more permanent and more lasting than just the physical, Sean said. You understand a little bit more about what love is when you and how love presents itself and how love is connected to everything. Ibogaine didn't give him all of his answers, but it gave him clarity of mind that the integration process afterward allowed him to make decisions that helped him move towards healing. The clarity also helped with his traumatic brain injury, which before had made accessing parts of his memory tough. Sean started exercising and eating better, and his relationship with his daughter improved. He still struggles with feeling down sometimes, but he doesn't feel depressed. He feels anxiety, but it didn't threaten to consume him like it did in the mornings before trying Ibogaine. And today he finds himself with a general openness to life that wasn't present before, and is willing to try practices like meditation that help him maintain the benefits of his experience. It doesn't make everything carnations and roses, and you come back and start seeing rainbows and unicorns everywhere, Sean said. Life still happens, but I guess the biggest thing I found coming out of this is that I wanted to become a better person. That was a great.
Yeah, I like it, man. That's Ibogaine. We've been talking a lot about it. A lot of states have been looking at it. A lot of healing groups. A lot of different. I mean, it's wow.
Yeah.
So, do we got enough time before medication time for another one, or should we do medication now?
This next one I think is a fairly long one too. So,
all right. Well, let's do medication now then.
All right. Well, you know what that means then. It's time to pay some bills. So stay tuned for a word from some of our sponsors, and then we'll return with more articles Bufo has chosen making mainstream media news.
Back in 4 minutes and 20 seconds here on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network.
Advertising space available at NOK. Contact us for a rate sheet at NOKNetwork.com.
Discover the treasure trove of flavors at Miss Jolly's Munchie Factory. Satisfy your cravings with our award-winning treats. Follow us on Instagram at Captain Rogers 705. Let Miss Jolly's Munchie Factory lift your spirits. Experience the comforting embrace of our freshly prepared soups and infused cornbread.
Join us for NOK Network monthly specials, 12 months a year. Movie nights, spotlights on entertainment, and live on location coverage. Stay up to date about upcoming programming by subscribing to NOK Network on Rumble, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, Twitch, and Facebook. Check out our webpage at www.noknetwork.com.
Hey, hi, my name is John Mark, aka Sublimator Warrior, and I would like to welcome you to Smoke Signal in Tyendinaga.
One dab make your whole dome drip sweat. One dab make the homies all dip set.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Ooey, ooey, gooey, that's a sticky dab. Sticky dab. Might just have to put this one on Instagram.
Smoke Signals, Tyan
Go
Janaga.
and hold it in, feel it in your wrist.
Smoke Signals, Tyatanaga.
Check us out in Tyndonega. 55 Highway 49 in Tyndonega. It's on the res, and we're open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week.
Tune in daily to NOK Network's diverse podcasting lineup. Ganja News Update, Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Tara Simpson and Ron McNabb. Waking Up with the Wayniac, Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific with Tombstoner Wayne Cruz from Tombstone, Arizona. Grow 420, Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern with Ron McNabb. Psychedelic Reporters, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Hobbies Puppets and Tara Simpson. Peace, News and Views, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Sir Stevo and Kim Cooper. Thursdays we have Open Your Eye with Kim Cooper and Tara Simpson, 8 p.m. Eastern. Followed by Thursday Night Vibes at 9:15 p.m. Eastern with Master and Mama Rochi. The IWK 710 Daily Sesh airs 7 nights a week with our rotating joint hosts nightly at 7 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for tuning in to all the podcasting on NOK Network.
Dudettes, enjoy the show, man.
And we're back from our medication session live on Psychedelic Reporters here on NOK Network.
And we have another set of stories coming at you from the realm of psychedelic medicine. So let's get at it. Our next article is coming out of Scotland, and it is written from the Scottish Sun.co.uk. And this is Time to Heal. I starred for Scotland and 6 nations, but injury ended my career and left me suicidal. Psychedelic drugs saved my life. He now helps others using these plant-based alternative medicines, and this is written by Stuart Fisher.
Yeah, so this is pretty interesting. Rugby union is a brutal sport which can be punishing on the body and mind. And in the case of former Scotland back Rory Lamont, the toll it took pushed him to the very brink of suicide. Lamont, who represented Glasgow Warriors, Sale Sharks, and Toulon at the club level, made 29 appearances for his country, including gracing 2 World Cup squads. But during a clash against France during the 2012 Six Nations tournament, he suffered a shattered leg and ankle joint in his career-ending injury. Unfortunately, things went even deeper than that. When 3 surgeries and a year down the line, his ankle failed to heal and his contract and healthcare plan was taken away, Lawson was left harboring suicidal thoughts. Unfortunately, somewhere in a retreat in Costa Rica, he discovered the start of a new journey back to health and wellness, and the major role psychedelic drugs would play in his recovery. Instead of the mainstream medicine and painkillers, which had failed him, plant medicines, iboga and ayahuasca, created rapid improvement in his well-being. Indeed, so transformative did he find it that he now assists others on their own journey to health regeneration at the retreat center, CAIM in Highland, Perthshire, which he runs with his partner, Shannon. These days, he's a licensed heart math coach and IAKP advanced Campbell practitioner, a men's work facilitator and nutritionist with a robust knowledge of human physiology combined with his expertise in nutrition and natural modalities. He says it's a place where patients can be guided through a drug-free trauma release and an acceptance and find new ways to navigate through pain. It's quite the story.
As he told the Times 2 years ago, Lamont said, I was just mourning the loss of my career. I was mourning the loss of my future. That was a long, dark night of the soul where I was having to face all my worst nightmares. I was completely lost without any guidance and just could not see a way forward. I couldn't walk, I couldn't eat, I lost all my friends. I lost too much pain to ask for help and express my vulnerability. I kept it all in, secluded myself. I was dealing with suicidal ideation because all hope had been lost for a meaningful future. But through the pain, suffering, I look back now and realize my life was being redirected. He picks up the narrative in the first-person piece, The Telegraph, back in 2023, just a few years before trying iboga. I've been lauded as Scotland's best fullback in 2007 of Rugby World Cup. During this week, I was training hard. While after matches, I was binge drinking, partying in the nightclubs with my teammates, pumped full of Red Bull and Pro Plus until the sun came up. During my decade-long career as a professional rugby player, I earned a reputation for winning at all costs. I've been knocked unconscious on the pitch 10 times, and with many more concussions and broken bones on top of that, in 2008, I fractured my eye socket, cheekbone, jawbone, and had a seizure, but I kept playing. Pharmaceutical drugs are handed out freely to the players, so with the help of anti-inflammatories, diclofenac, and meloxicam, and painkillers, codamol, and tramadol, and muscle-relaxing benzodiazepines, I got with it. One day I found myself alone at home on my hands and knees, sobbing and begging to be saved. It was only a few weeks later, after hearing a podcast about iboga, that it seemed the lifeline I needed. I booked myself to retreat in Costa Rica. It was an epiphany. Deep into the experience, my terror dissipated, and I was engulfed by feelings of love and joy. I decided there to try and heal organically with diet, natural therapies, meditation, breathwork, and heat therapy with cold water immersion and saunas. Returning home to Perth, I still couldn't walk or eat well, and I was in a lot of pain. But for the first time in years, I had hope. Few people around me understood that psychedelic experiences, by definition, are ineffable. Ineffable? What does ineffable mean?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Lying on a mat around a fire in the middle of the Costa Rican jungle, I was too terrified to speak. I had just taken iboga, a psychedelic plant medicine native to Central Africa, in a last desperate attempt to avoid taking my own life. This wasn't the first time I had tried psychedelics. I tried psilocybin, magic mushrooms, 7 years earlier after having a bad concussion because I had heard they benefited brain injuries. But that night, under the influence of iboga, I felt a sense of clarity that was almost disturbing. A new energy coursed through my body, and I could see all the trauma I had been put through, the surgeries, the pharmaceutical drugs, the partying. On my return home, I started researching psychedelics. Until the 1960s, psychedelic therapies were surprisingly commonplace in Western medicine in the areas of psychology and psychiatry. I'm in touch with some of my old teammates, although it's a different dynamic now, as I am different. They're interested and accepting of my work with these indigenous plant medicines. I think that's quite telling of where we are headed as a society with our understanding of how psychedelics can help people. These drugs aren't for everyone. It's important only to go to places that are reputable and safe, because with incorrect use or lack of support afterwards, these plants and experiences can cause more harm than good. But for me, psychedelics were life-changing. 10 years ago, I was willing to go to extremes to achieve the illusion of success, to injure, poison, and even kill myself, all because at the core of my being, I didn't feel worthy of love. Now I feel grateful for difficult experiences, because life is a teaching in our crisis moments where we can grow and heal and find resilience and eventually inner peace.
I like it. It's great. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great article.
All right. So our next article comes to us of Denver area. Let's pull that up. All right, it is from Axios.com. Local Denver business offers magic mushrooms in a legal gray area. And this is written by Elena Alvarez. Let me pull it up. I don't see it there.
Yeah, so this is an interesting article. Psychedelic healing centers may not be open just yet in Colorado, but at least one local business is already offering access to medicinal magic mushrooms. Zoom in, Lyman Support Centers, a small studio tucked just off Denver's Santa Fe Drive, has been offering psilocybin mushrooms as natural medicine for the past roughly 2 years. Owner Darren Lyman told Axios Denver he believes he's operating legally under Colorado's 2022 voter-approved Natural Medicine Health Act, which decriminalized psychedelics and legalized medicinal psilocybin, including personal cultivation, possession, and sharing. Lyman's customers get their shrooms from his facility after a support session, but consume them elsewhere. How it works: you walk in after buzzing a call box, show your ID, 21 and up only, and sit down for a chat with a staffer. 10 to 30 minutes for a first timer, often less for regulars, Lyman tells us. The sessions cover the basics: your intent to use, what psilocybin does, and how to dose it properly. They cost between $10 and $200, including a free mushroom ranging from microdose to a full ounce, available in dried, chocolate, or capsule form. Lyman sources his mushrooms from multiple Colorado growers and tests them at Tripnomics and Friday Ventures for potency and purity. Reality check: it looks and feels like a dispensary, though Lyman insists he doesn't sell shrooms.
Wow. Look at that. Look at that picture right there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The intrigue of law enforcement has taken notice, and Lyman says he's been investigated for operating in what some see as a legal gray area, but so far he's never been charged or forced to shut down. What he's saying: this business is 100% in the legal scope, and already it's attracting people from all over the world. What's next? Despite Colorado's push for regulated healing centers where psilocybin is consumed on site, Lyman has no plans to convert his operation. Instead, he's expanding this product line to include psilocybin-infused lotions, creams, and even lip balm. He's also working on a psychedelic tourism initiative to put Colorado on the map as an alternative healing destination. The big picture: this is the answer for healthcare and in the future, Lyman says. Huh. Wow.
That's pretty clever, because, again, he's not selling the mushrooms. He's selling a therapy session at the beginning where you then take your medicine home to consume. So he technically falls under those guidelines of a medicinal therapy center, right?
Oh, yeah.
You just happen to, with your therapy session, get your medicine free, right?
And to take home with you and take at a different time.
Right.
So the integration process is done in a, I guess you can call it a pre and post after math.
They come back again for another therapy session. So that would be their integration work. And again, get more medicine to go home with to continue their therapy. But he's not selling the medicine, he's selling the therapy. The medicine comes free after your therapy session.
Michigan was able to give meds to patients with cannabis, gifting them after they were able to grow recreationally, and you could gift it. And that was, so I mean, it gets meds to the people.
So it's a roundabout way, but he's absolutely correct in what he's doing. He's not selling the mushrooms, he's selling the therapy. The mushrooms are a gift. Prove otherwise.
Right. Oh man, I get it. So next and last article, it would be NEAT, the Cambridge research team. And Rufus was really smart on this. We've been talking about the UK for a while being their researchers. So varsity.co.uk wrote this article at Meet the Cambridge Research exploring psychedelic assisted therapies. Ruby Jackson speaks to psychiatrists reaching the therapeutic potential of psychedelics. And this is by Ruby Jackson.
Yeah, so this article was written February 7th of this year. The healing power of psychedelic compounds as spiritual tools has been recognized by many cultures for a large part of human history, from the use of ayahuasca by indigenous groups in the Western Amazon to the role of peyote and mescaline in Native American rituals. The new wave of research over the last 30 years has begun to investigate their potential for unlocking new psychological therapies in areas where standard treatments have failed. I spoke to Dr. Liliana Galando about what these compounds could mean for the future of psychiatry. The University of Cambridge affiliated assistant professor and consultant psychiatrist is principal investigator of the Cambridge Psychedelic Research Group. She is leading two clinical trials investigating the therapeutic potential of entheogens and neuroplastogens, bringing studies of this nature to Cambridge and the East of England for the first time. One of these studies includes participants with post-traumatic stress disorder, a condition for which there is currently a real dearth of treatment options. The only pharmacological interventions, medications that offer for post-traumatic stress disorder at the moment are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, antidepressants such as sertraline, which is Zoloft, or fluoxetine, which is Prozac. These medications do help some patients, but generally only offer some symptomatic relief, Dr. Galando tells me. These might help to reduce some of the anxiety, some of the insomnia, often experienced by post-traumatic stress disorder sufferers, but it's not treating the root. The trauma that is behind. The other option is psychological intervention therapies such as EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, which focus on the processing of traumatic memories, but these aren't suitable for everyone. For many people, any work with their trauma is so triggering that they can't allow themselves to do it. Some people might not remember or recall the trauma because it's something that comes with a lot of pain. While estimates widely vary, it's only a limited number of people with severe post-traumatic stress disorder who experience a marked improvement even with these interventions. The story is similar for other mental illnesses. Around 30% of those suffering from depression can be classed as treatment resistant, meaning they do not show any response to at least two forms of treatment. Wow.
Therapeutic options aren't limited by the plasticity of medication options available. As a result of slow innovation in psychiatric pharmacology, the vast majority of psychiatric medications available today are descended from the first generation of drugs, some of which were developed more than 50 years ago with few modifications since. This urgent need to expand the menu of treatment options, and one reason researchers are so keen to explore psychedelic and empathogen-assisted therapy, where people receive a controlled amount of psychoactive drug in a clinical environment under medical supervision, while supported by a trained psychotherapist. Dr. Galindo uses the analogy of surgery to explain the principle behind PAT. When you have a physical trauma, you use an anesthetic that will allow the surgeon to have a few hours where the person doesn't feel the same pain. What these psychoactive substances, amphetamines and pathogens, are giving you is a period of hours. So the pathogens are giving a period of hours that will allow the person to reprocess their trauma with a different perspective. Oh gosh, treatment of PAT has shown almost unbelievable promise in clinical trials with successful outcomes in treating conditions ranging from anxiety to addiction. There are many proposed mechanisms by which psychedelics offer this protective effect. Their utility in the processing of traumatic memories may be in part due to the cognitive flexibility they offer. Rigid thought patterns underlie many of the symptoms to the cognitive flexibility they offer. Rigid thought patterns underlie many of the symptoms of mental illness. The clinical negative rumination of depression and anxiety. The rigid patterns of thoughts, behavior, common to addiction, eating disorders, and obsessive compulsive disorder. Psychedelics belong to a class of compounds called neuroplastogens, which support the growth and regeneration of nerve cells to increase neuroplasticity, the ability of nervous system to reorganize itself. Essentially, these substances create the ideal conditions for rewiring these rigid thought patterns and mapping out neural pathways. Huh.
There are many stages to the intervention that participants in these trials will receive. The dosing sessions, where people actually receive the drug under clinical supervision, could involve up to 8 hours of assisted therapy. That means you need to have doctors. They are with the psychotherapists supporting them, plus the research nurses that are monitoring their vital signs. The drug is only one part of the intervention as well. Before this dosing session, they have a preparatory session with a trained therapist, as well as sessions afterwards to integrate the different experiences they had. Participants are also screened beforehand to confirm they're eligible to participate in the study. I asked Dr. Galando whether it's been more difficult to obtain approvals for her research, given she's working with restricted drugs. Under UK law, all psychedelics are classified as Schedule 1, the strictest category of regulation. Application for a home office license, the permit necessary for any research involving a Schedule 1 drug, is a complex, thorough, and often lengthy process. However, Dr. Galindo tells me the waiting is made easier by the knowledge they're researching something that could come at the end with therapeutic options for a lot of people in the trial with post-traumatic stress disorder. The participants that are joining have been symptomatic for more than 10 years and we're speaking severe post-traumatic stress disorder. So people who cannot work, cannot fulfill different aspects of their lives because they are so affected by these symptoms. Many in the field feel this regulation is perhaps too stringent and is compromising innovation. A 2022 letter from the Royal College of Psychiatrists called for the removal of psychedelic drugs from Schedule I to facilitate research, pointing towards countries such as Australia and parts of the United States where some psychedelics are already approved for therapeutic use. We need to explore how could the UK legislation adapt at the same pace as the science. The rigorous regulation is partly historical. Following the war on drugs, the use of psychedelics in research was outlawed, first nationally in the United States, then globally via the 1971 United Nations Convention on Psychotropic Substances. In 1991, the first approved psychedelic research since the 1970s was granted, rekindling interest in the subject and kickstarting a second wave of clinical trials, the so-called psychedelic renaissance. The encouraging evidence that emerged from this new wave of research has meant psychedelics are increasingly being viewed as a viable option for UK medical research to explore further. Dr. Galindo is hoping to expand her research to look at other psychedelic compounds. This year, her group will begin 2 trials to investigate the potential of psilocybin, one for generalized anxiety disorder and the other for treatment-resistant depression, and will be hosting their first Cambridge Psychedelic Research Day on March 12th. She's running these trials alongside working as a consultant psychiatrist. And so I ask, slightly selfishly, I'm still feeling out different career options, how she finds it balancing research and clinical practice. It's not straightforward, she laughs. Many of my questions or my ideas come from my clinical experience. I struggle to think we can find a solution if we are really far away from what we are studying. And that part is beautiful and promising. That is, we really haven't had many new treatments in psychiatry for a very long time, many decades. And here we have hope that we might be able to change a paradigm.
Paradigm.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, that's one of those cool words. I like the paradigm and paradox. I think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So good articles this week, man. That's the Cambridge team, and that's pretty cool. That's over in England. I can't remember. It's the Queen or the King now. Is the King helping these studies, or is this all from private donors and universities?
It could be. I don't really know how that's all come about. I would just like to assume that people are waking up over there and realizing that, something has to change because what we're doing currently for these people is not working. And research is happening in other places, like they said, right? So they're kind of behind the times on their research. But of course, their country still requires them to do their own research.
Right. Okay. I get it.
Yeah. So maybe we'll see some exciting things come out of there.
I'm really excited. I mean, this is instead of the year of the dragon, this is the year of psychedelics. I hope.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a lot of big things over the next few years with psychedelic research because it's becoming more and more researched.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep. Thank you for joining us here on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network and for tuning in to your video podcast on NOK Network's Rumble and YouTube pages, as well as our social media sites.
That's right. We hope you've enjoyed your update today on mainstream media coverage of psychedelic medicine advancements from around the globe.
Many thanks to our sponsors and to my joint host, Tara Simpson, and to Bufo Alvarius for choosing the stories for us, and to you, our listeners, for joining each week on Psychedelic Tuesday. Let's hear from Ted Ringer again from Kirkland Lake on our way out. Night.
Night.
Where's the button? Come on. Try and touch the button. It's this button right here.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of